inequalities across the globe and within different countries. So it was really a nice environment to talk to different academics and also who shared the same history like mine, who grew up in a colonial Zimbabwe and then Rhodesia. Yes. And I presume the discussions there, I think, if they are followed up, will go a long way in resolving inequalities, not only in Guyana, but in the Caribbean, in Africa, and the world at large. So it was really fantastic. And I was actually joined by Dr. Tracy Rogers, who actually lectures at the University of West Indies, and who we happen to be actually doing a collaboration in research together, which we can talk about on another day.
Of course. and I definitely want to talk to both you and Dr. Rogers about that. That's at the University of the West Indies Mona campus. So we'll have that conversation. It means we're going to see you in Jamaica shortly. But to go to Zimbabwe, Matthew, it's an interesting thing that we see coming out of Zimbabwe. We're hearing that the U.S. has lifted sanctions on Zimbabwe, but at the same time, increasing sanctions on individuals, including Mnangagwa and others. What can you tell us about that particular situation?
Now, this is a political and tactical move by the United States. You see, what has happened is that when the United States and the West allies moved away from the purported, pariah states, the way they would look at them, that space has now been occupied by Chinese, who are also having an economy which is growing so fast.
That's China, you said.
I think... Yes, China, definitely. Yes. You know, their economy is growing, and they are actually coming back to Africa to get some raw materials. And this was also a home for raw materials for the Western world. And they are actually, I think, this is my thinking, they are actually seeing that increasing hostility with African countries will only serve for China to actually get into Africa, get what it wants, and develop themselves. And also, there's this competition between these developed countries and developing countries. So I think it's a political move, which is aimed at also getting a grip into Africa and trying to improve the way things are being done at the same time. So they didn't want to move away totally, but it was a way of trying also to exert their influence. But I see it.
Yes, go ahead.
I see it as a good thing to actually take away those sanctions from Zimbabwe. For one reason, we don't want politicians to continue blaming sanctions even when they are incompetent. So when the sanctions are taken away, let them now deliver to the people. And again, I was never a proponent of sanctions because sanctions hurt the ordinary people. The ordinary people are the ones who are going to be hurt by the sanctions. That is the point.
And the U.S. has had these sanctions on Zimbabwe for a very, very long time. Ever since Mugabe and the fallout between Mugabe and the United Kingdom when the UK requested that other Western countries impose sanctions on Zimbabwe, these sanctions have been in place. But let me ask you this, as you referenced China. To what extent, and I know you were just in Zimbabwe the other day, to what extent is China a critical and significant actor on the ground in Zimbabwe?
The Chinese have literally taken everything in Zimbabwe. Not only in Zimbabwe, I will tell you, I was in Zambia about 3 months ago. They've literally taken everything. You see the Chinese, they are in Botswana, they are in South Africa. However, in South Africa, the space is quite very competitive because the Western conglomerates are still operating there. But you find Chinese have made inroads into many African countries. But my sister, I would like to say one thing that I am not happy with. That is, which I think is very unethical of the Chinese. I would love Chinese to actually come to Africa, do some business, create businesses for the people, for the local people, so that they actually have a better life. But what we are seeing is not exactly what is happening. What is happening with many companies in China, they don't employ a lot of local people. And where local people have been employed, they are given mega salaries, they are mistreated, there is no safety. And I will tell you, there are some abuses that happens alongside that. And what they are doing, I will give an example of cobalt.
Yes.
That is not cobalt, lithium. That has been recently discovered in Zimbabwe. The Chinese are literally taking the lithium, shipping it back to China in its form, in its raw form, instead of establishing industries in Zimbabwe and then create employment and also increase, the GDP for Zimbabwe and the people of Zimbabwe.
Yes.
How can you alleviate poverty when people are coming to take the natural resources? So what we have in Africa now, one, we had colonialism, which was actually taking away our resources. And secondly, we thought, okay, let's run away from colonialism, let's look east. And what we now find is a raw deal. And I tell you, I do not normally want to compare bad things. Bad things are bad things.
Yes.
But then if you are trapped between a rock and a hard place, sometimes you choose to say, oh, probably I would rather stay at Cab's house where I get one meal a day rather than go to Joe's house where I will never get food.
Yes.
You see?
And so that that analogy that refers to what? To China and who, or to Mugabe?
Reference to China and the Western world. You see, the Chinese, one thing that I will tell you, they have, meanwhile, the Western world was actually, siphoning our natural resources. They also, to some extent, had corporate responsibility, social responsibility, where they would actually build roads, they would build houses for the local people, they would create employment. Chinese do not create any employment. What they do is they take the natural resources, they go back to their country where they are creating their own employment for their own people. And well, this is very terrible.
And I'm listening to you closely because we were always sure that whatever model China was using in Africa, that they were rolling out the very same model in the Caribbean, in Jamaica and so on. So that Africa was signing on to a win-win for China and a win for Africa model. And basically what that meant was that they'll come in, they build the road and so on, but they would also carry in their own labor. Jamaica signed on to that very same thing, even though they're trying to talk themselves out of it. So, and obviously Africa is way ahead because China started in Africa before it rolled out its successful model, its Africa's successful model to the Caribbean. It means we are getting to the very same place that you are referencing. We have already heard our own government here. The Prime Minister has said that we do not have enough skilled labor on the island. This is what they're telling people now. And so they're going to have to import labor. Obviously, it is because we're going to see more of China labor coming in, as you are explaining to us. That's happening now in Zimbabwe. Now, I am sure this is also happening in Zambia. It's happening in South Africa. It's happening in Ghana. It's happening, you just name it, across the continent of Africa. That was always the model. But I hear you saying, Matthew, that the choice between China and the West, in terms of the U.S. lifting sanctions, that you think it would be better to have, for Zimbabwe to have that relationship with the United States as opposed to Zimbabwe. But how, on what basis, though? Because the U.S. has been, sanctions have been out of Zimbabwe for so long, and now you're talking about the discovery of lithium, which is new. How would the U.S. do anything different? They're not known to do anything different, actually.
In fact, the problem which is here, which we must talk about, is about the gains of the ordinary people. The problem is that with China, the lithium benefits does not filter to the people down there. Then they talk with the politicians. This is a model that is cut across Africa. What did the Chinese do? In China, you can't be corrupt. They've got very stringent rules and regulations about anyone who can be corrupt. But when they come to Africa, they corrupt the leaders of Africa.
You can't corrupt anybody who wasn't corruptible. And so our African leaders, whether here or continental Africa, are corruptible. And so they have already sold out the people. We are recognizing that. I hear the point you're making.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. They've never moved away from the slavery that started, you see. And our leaders need to take responsibility, right? Way back, we look on our history. We have seen brothers and sisters being sold out, right? Human beings. But that is now also happening now. They are selling away our lives through resources. If they come and get corrupted, and these Chinese are now taking away all the raw materials to China and leaving us for dead.
This is egregious, but it is happening. I want us to listen closer to what Matthew is saying here. This was what we always said in this space would happen. It means that that's the very same thing that's about to happen here. But this has been happening here on the island for a long time with the European Union, with the United States, and with so many other who come in, take the raw bauxite out, and don't even build factories to process the whole thing, and so on and so forth. So we see the settler colonialism and the neo-colonialism and the neoliberal agenda just playing itself out wherever we are as African people. Back to the sanctions, Matthew. In terms of the U.S.-South Africa relationship, do you think that there is something there? Because we see the tensions now between the U.S. and South Africa.
Yes, definitely. But I would like to say that the ANC, yes, I was very, very moved when they actually took the action to stop the war in Palestine. When they took it to the court. That was very a noble idea.
Yes.
But what you then see is imbalance of power. The judgment came out clearly, but we still see these things in our public health. Wherever there is war, people still die. But looking at South Africa, it's quite very interesting. South Africa is moving to the polls this time around.
Exactly. Hold that point. Let me take a quick break. Hold, please. Safe.
And believe that the action that they took quickly was also try and woo international support. One question I would ask South Africa, before they think about what was happening in Palestine, Zimbabwe has been burning for a long time. South Africa, being a responsible leader, was supposed to have addressed the issues in Zimbabwe first. how do you start to address issues that are happening away from your own backyard before you even fix those that are in your backyard?
And let's talk about that. Because Zimbabwe, of course, has been buckling under international sanctions for years. Zimbabwe was brought to its knees. And you're saying that South Africa turned a blind eye? Is this what I hear you saying?
Yes, I'm saying that South Africa should have been very genuine. It should have actually been the country that should have actually went into Zimbabwe, look at the two opposing parties and say, comrade, let's have a fair talk here. This is about the people, and organize that. But what we saw was the ANC is aligning itself with the All Liberation Party. You know, there's this liberation parties in Africa, and then there are new parties which are coming, and any new party that is coming is normally labeled a colonial party, a party that is being sponsored from the West. But now which is not very true, and what we are seeing in South Africa is the same thing that has happened with all liberation parties. And it is very, very difficult to defeat a liberation party in an election, because they will never let it fair. And they actually tell you that if you want this country...
Yes, go ahead.
If you want this country, go into the bush, because we took it from the bush. Can we live such a life? We can't live such a life. So they will tell you.
Yeah, so we saw what happened with the Movement for Democratic Change, which you co-founded yourself, and also with ZANU-PF and so on, even while South Africa was buckling. But it is true that the MDC was heavily funded by the colonial powers, Matthew. One has to face that.
That was not true. Apparently, ZANU-PF got a lot of funding just now, just ended the elections. Did you know that Zimbabwe was being funded more than £6 million every year to actually restructure its electoral commission by the European Union? And we only learned about it when the European Union said, we are no longer going to give you money.
Yes, okay. So
they never told the public.
Right.
They never told the public they were getting it, how it was being used. We don't know.
But so the point you're making with South Africa is that South Africa going to the polls, the ANC seems to be in trouble. You are projecting that there will be out of this election a coalition. So tell us where the other parties stand, because we see a splintering. If you check it, there's a splintering of the ANC, because the Economic Freedom Movement, Julius Malema, came out of the ANC. You're talking about the ANC youth arm. So that in itself splintered the ANC. So what are the outside parties? What about those parties that are...
All right. So there's the Democratic Alliance, which is the official opposition party at the moment. And then there's the EEF, which is Julius Malema's party, which has won some more council elections in the past and are leading some municipalities at the present moment. But then there is also within the ANC, the ANC is actually split. Now you remember the ANC's liberation trade name was Umkhonto weSizwe, Spear of the Nation.
Yes.
Right? They stopped using that name 2 years ago, trying to reform itself into a modern government, because Umkhonto weSizwe was all about the war, isn't it?
Of course, yes.
But
that's the revolutionary arm of the ANC.
Exactly. So now, when there were squabbles and when the ANC was starting to lose some more support from the public, there are members from the ANC who have now split and they've actually go back to form Umkondo Wesizwe. Which means the support for ANC has been split in between, and already has been split because of the formation of the Economic Freedom Fighters by Julius Malema, and also the traditional opposition party, the DA, which include black and white, but it was predominantly a white party, a white formed party. But what it did then, it started to lose some black people who were of like mind to them, like you would see business people are aligned to that because they are getting what they are getting. But then you see Julius Malema is getting those poor people because he is actually talking in their manifesto. I was just looking last week. They are actually looking at taking the land without conversation, like what Zimbabwe did.
Well, obviously, that's going to get them where that's going to get them. So, obviously, I am in favor of land reclamation. You know how violently, literally, we disagreed on how that was being done in Zimbabwe. But let me ask, hold for me, Matthew. I do have to take another quick break. But so with all of this happening there, is there a danger, and I'm deliberately using the word danger, of a white European-looking party taking either a significant role in South Africa, or possibly be winning the election at some point down the line, even if not this one? And to what extent do you think they are being funded by the United States? So think on that. Let me take a quick break. And see, as opposed to whether or not we'll see a white government ruling South Africa in short order. You're thinking on that, Matthew?
No, it will never come. It will never come. The white government will never come to South Africa. What is going to happen, mainly, it's quite very interesting. It will depend. The ANC will still have an upper hand, but I don't think they will garner enough support to form a government. And then I don't know what's going to happen, the matrix, because the EEF, which is the Economic Freedom Fighters for Julius Malema, clearly says that it doesn't want to get into a coalition with the ANC. And this might actually provide an opportunity for the DA to actually get into a coalition with the ANC, depending on how many seats would they garner. And if you see, South Africa is already prepared for that. They had summit for all political parties and all stakeholders to say there is a likelihood that the elections will not be ultimately won by one party. How are we going to proceed? Things have been put in place already. But what I am seeing is the bad blood between the black parties, like the EEF and the ANC, which may make it very difficult for them to work together.
However, okay, go ahead.
However, looking at the local election, the EEF has worked together with the ANC, with the DA in some municipalities. And I don't know how that will impact on the totality of the country when they hold the national general election
in May. I want to put something to you, Matthew, and I know you probably hadn't considered it, but I want to put it in the midst and tell me what you think. I know you're pretty analytical in terms of your thinking on especially on Southern African politics. The United States lifting sanctions on Zimbabwe.
Yes.
At a time when they're discussing in the U.S. Congress South Africa's relationship with China, South Africa's relationship with Russia, South Africa's stance against Israel in terms of carrying Israel to the ICJ and standing with Palestine. They have accused South Africa of being in partnership with Hamas. This is being discussed in the U.S. Congress. They are they're angry with South Africa for supporting Russia as opposed to supporting Ukraine. So South Africa seems, in the U.S. eyes, to be racking up all these negatives. Also, South Africa relationship with the BRICS nation, the S in BRICS, of course. So all of that, and the U.S. is looking at that. Now they're discussing this in the Congress, and we see that they have already made a move, which is to lift sanctions on Zimbabwe. We think it's directly related. To what extent do you think, knowing U.S. diplomacy and U.S. way of thinking, that they are operating in South Africa against the ANC leading up to this general election?
Now that one is quite very. It's yes, a difficult question, but I will try to look at it the way I am seeing it. Mm-hmm. Now I think what South Africa did actually exposed the democracy that we talk about in the world. South Africa went to the International Court of Justice and actually say people are dying, mm-hmm. and this should stop. Mm-hmm. And in my view, that was not a wrong move. And even now, to some extent, the Democrats in America, mm-hmm. the Biden is actually speaking against the war. What is happening?
Oh, not quite.
Did you see in the last week?
That's smoke and mirrors. But I understand the point you're making. They appear to be speaking because they want the ceasefire. But the ceasefire is really to cleanse Gaza, to do what Jared Kushner is saying, to build a waterfront, to clear the waterfront. He used the word clean it up, to clean that area, and to build condominiums for wealthy people. So within that whole talk is a need for a ceasefire, but within the ceasefire is what work is going to be done on the Gaza waterfront to cleanse it, ethnic cleanse that area. So they're hypocrites and they're liars. But I hear the point you're making. That
the point I'm making. Yes. Let me finish this point.
Yes.
And also, I think United States is being diplomatic as well. Mm-hmm. They don't want to burn the bridges of with Africa. Mm-hmm. And now, if they were to go for South Africa as they went for Zimbabwe, mm-hmm. and then that will mean it's the closure of any relationship, Africa will remain strong in providing raw materials for the world at large. And the United States is aware of it. And this is a diplomatic move.
Yes,
they are discussing this with South Africa, and they are opening up in Zimbabwe.
Yes.
So it's a diplomacy.
Yes, and it's also diplomacy. I know. I totally agree with you 100%. So on the one hand, they're using a big stick policy on South Africa, while at the same time it's a carrot being dangled in Zimbabwe by lifting sanctions and so on. But they're
exactly.
They're faced anyway with China in Zimbabwe, as you said. China controls everything in Zimbabwe because the U.S.
That is the problem that they would then meet.
Yeah.
What is going to happen will be quite very interesting. Mm-hmm. And I think this is where Africa should now bargain for the best thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What is going to happen is that there would be competition between China and the West, mm-hmm. in terms of doing business with African countries because of the raw materials. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking it is a very good opportunity for African leaders, mm-hmm. to say now, what brings the deal that helps the poor people,
yes.
who are in the streets?
To leverage.
How can we make?
To leverage.
Exactly.
To leverage.
To leverage it,
yes.
And they should be very clear with their deals. They should not look at anybody. write a deal that will help the poor people and present it, take it or leave it.
Yes.
Now, because of the interest that has grown and the competition, it means that tax will be so high, and some countries from the West or from China are going to change their approach to Africa. And that can actually help the poor people.
That should help the poor people, because that competition on the continent right now, with America trying to get a foothold again, because America had so heavily sanctioned Africa that they have sanctioned themselves out of the continent of Africa to a large extent. We see now that Niger has kicked out the United States, and they're scrambling for foothold on the continent of Africa. But China is already there, as you're pointing out. But our African people, the African Union seems incompetent and impotent. The African leaders are corruptible and corrupting and being corrupted. And so that the people are always getting the short end of a stick. Apart from what we see happening with Niger and Mali and Burkina Faso, they seem to have a different thinking in those areas. How does... from your own perspective, and finally I'm asking you, do you think, you've been looking at African politics for a very long time, do you think that that African leaders, the African Union in particular, will rise to this occasion to go where you are pointing to leverage this relationship as the multinational corporations and the conglomerates and the massive nations, so-called first world nations, fight for a foothold on the continent?
If I'm asked that question, I will definitely say no, because the African Union is a toothless bulldog. They have never tried to solve the problems. And one of the things, they cannot operate on their own. They are being funded by the Western world. And you are an organization. How are you going to be effective?
Yeah.
You have all those resources, but you still want to receive money from the Western world.
Yeah.
And that will compromise your stand viewpoint.
This is where...
There is no way you are going to speak against your master.
This is where the African Renaissance...
And this is where we need to decolonize the African Union. It needs to be decolonized.
Yes.
And we need to decolonize our leadership as well.
Yes.
Even the way that they look at different investors, they need to be very clear, and we need people who are craft literate and craft competent in making policies that benefit the poor people. Not talking, having these armchair people who talk with businesses and they exchange money. And at the end of it, we have lithium, we have gold, we have platinum, we have tin, we have copper, we have everything. But everything is nothing to the common man.
So that outside of these kinds of leaders rising up out of the people, as we see in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, that the status quo remains in place. Is it possible for a change without that kind of a revolution that we see in East Africa, which includes a military component?
I think I believe in non-violence. If our leaders are very clear and can negotiate and can use the power of sovereignty to actually negotiate, we will get better deals from wherever, either from the east or from the west. But the problem is that when you see people getting into violence, it means that they are being squashed. And you will find out that people went into that military mode. Not that they wanted to go into the military mode. It might have been caused by the leadership, because the leadership was being told to do something that will benefit the poor people. But they won't do, because they are the ones who are benefiting. So I believe that at this point in time, we need to make our case very clear. We need to stop taking bribery money if we are in leadership across Africa.
and the Caribbean.
And the Caribbean, definitely.
Yes.
I'm not very privy to the Caribbean, intricate politics. I follow it up very well. But I see that the inequalities that you find in the Caribbean are synonymous with those that you find in Africa.
Of course.
And the operation of multinational companies in the Caribbean is the same modus operandi which they use in Africa as well.
Yeah.
And those are the things. We need to get to a situation where multinational companies and conglomerates are aware that there are also indigenous people in the countries that they are operating, and they've got a social responsibility to look after the poor.
We have to
look after the elderly, to provide jobs.
We, the people, will have to ensure that those who are put in positions of leadership, who are selected and elected, that they carry out the will of the people as opposed to the will of the colonizers. And I think this is where we are. The people have not yet recognized their power. Matthew, I want to thank you so much, my brother. I look forward to continuing this conversation with you. I want to talk some more with you about inequalities. And I know that, for example, you must be looking at Haiti, for example, with what we see happening now. But health-wise, we wanted to have some conversation with you regarding that and the work that you're doing. Thank you so much, Matthew.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Matthew Nyashano there, Dr. Matthew Nyashano, who is a founding member of the former main opposition party in Zimbabwe, the Movement for Democratic Change. He is an academic. He's based at Nottingham Trent University in the United Kingdom. A day after a senior U.S. delegation left Niger after a 3-day visit to renew the contract with the military junta, Niger's government announced that it was breaking off with immediate effect its military cooperation agreement with the United States. The declaration, as I said, was after the senior U.S. delegation left Niger. They were there for a 3-day visit to renew the contract with the military junta that ousted the president and had moved closer to Russia. The statement that Niger had put out at the time denounced with immediate effect the agreement relating to the United States military and civilian employee of the U.S. Department of Defense inside Niger. Let me carry this clip to you, I think also from Al Jazeera. Not quite sure. Okay, but I'll double check on that. But here is a bit.
The U.S. losing to Putin, more than 1,000 U.S. military personnel getting kicked out of Niger, an essential military agreement falling apart. Niger, once a major American ally, turning instead to Putin. Russia.
This is, by the way, CNN.
Working to expand its presence, not just in Niger, but across all of Africa, mineral-rich and many, many countries, with one top U.S. military official warning that several African nations are, quote, at the tipping point of falling under Russia's influence. Out front now, John Sullivan, the former U.S. ambassador to Russia. And Ambassador, we have seen this in countries, Mali, Burkina Faso, across Africa. Now you've got 1,000 Americans kicked out of Niger, a 10-year deal over. This was a crucial location for U.S. troops, counter-terror efforts. Putin now gaining ground. Can you explain why this matters so much?
Sure. Thanks, Aaron. It's great to be with you. Yeah, this has been a long-standing problem that the Russians, through their proxy organizations like the Wagner Group, have been working to ingratiate themselves into these countries. It undermines the United States counterterrorism mission. It allows them to expropriate the natural resources of these countries, valuable natural resources, gold, including some that are essential for U.S. national security, like uranium. In Niger, for example. So it's a national security problem for the United States, but it's even bigger problem for all the people who live in these countries whose autocratic governments are now associating with what amounts to a private military contractor / terrorist organization like the Wagner Group.
And you mentioned the Wagner Group. Before Prigozhin was killed, after his attempted coup, we had marched half of the way to Moscow. He and his mercenary army were, deeply involved in Africa, right? That was where he had actually gotten so much of his money, from all of the minerals and all of the deals that he did, natural resources, weapons running. And can you tell me how active they still are, the Wagner Group, and what are the mercenaries? How are they getting mercenaries there?
Well, Aaron, it's really like a franchise, the way to think of it. The Wagner organization, we call it Wagner, it was really a bunch of corporate shell companies that recruited Russian military, other military, to go in and provide security services to autocrats in these countries. The franchise founder has been eliminated by Vladimir Putin, and now they're recruiting more military personnel to go in and undermine security, undermine the counterterrorism mission in these countries, support autocrats, and undermine the West.
So former President Trump has just done an interview with Nigel Farage of the UK, and they talk about Vladimir Putin, specifically Trump's relationship with Putin, and how Trump says things would be very different if he were president right now. I wish for you, Ambassador.
Is Putin the kind of man we can negotiate with?
Yeah, I think he is.
Do you?
So we did very well with him. Look, I'm the one that was the one I stopped Nord Stream 2. People don't realize that. They say I like Putin. I got along with Putin great.
Putin responds to strength.
I don't know. I don't know what he responds to. He responded to me.
Ambassador, you are one of the few now who in these past years have seen Putin and Trump up close. So what do you think about this right now? Is Vladimir Putin right now the kind of person anyone can negotiate with?
Well, I think former President Trump's approach to Putin, like his approach to others, was highly personal. He wanted to engage in personal diplomacy, develop a relationship with world leaders, including Putin, even when it was inconsistent with longstanding U.S. foreign policy and national security policy. His rationale was that he could develop a relationship and then do good things for the United States. But a leader like Putin can't be manipulated that way. And President Trump thought that he could develop this personal relationship, and it just wouldn't work. Didn't work then, won't work in the future.
All right. Thank you very much, Ambassador. I appreciate your time.
All right. So there you have it. Do you see now what's happening and how this thing is being played out? Now, by literally speaking negatively about how Niger is forming new relationships with Russia. We're hearing from CNN how these relationships really work. And that's why we have to listen with critical eyes. When they're speaking against each other, they literally tell us what they are doing, what they have been doing, and what they want to do. And so that's what we're hearing from CNN just now. Because Niger had the audacity to kick out the U.S. and to embrace Russia. But here is the thing. America, and you could hear they are angry. And you heard the confession from Erin Burnett there from CNN. This means a lot to the United States. This is significant. This is the time. This is our responsibility, but also to ensure that we're part of it. 2 minutes time, we'll have Cashbot. And we're 7.9. Yesterday, Professor Vereen Shepherd spoke at the United Nations General Assembly on International, was it yesterday? Friday, International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination in memory of the Sharpeville massacre. And we have a speech we're going to carry to you next week. Professor Shepherd will also be back for part 2 of our very intimate discussion with her, intimate convo with her. She's going to be in studio, not in studio, on the phone lines. Vereen, if you can come in studio, it would be great. But we'll definitely be talking to her. She is speaking, she's on her way now because she's leaving for the UN, I think, again, or the World Bank. She's going to speak at the World Bank. She's leaving for Washington, D.C., and she's going to speak tomorrow on the Conference on Global Lessons to Address Racial Discrimination Through Development Programming, Reflections and Possibilities. So that's being put on by the World Bank in Washington, D.C., and that's going to be on March 26th. So she'll be speaking on March 26th at that conference. And is now traveling, and so she'll be back with us for part 2 of that very, very intimate convo that we're having with Prof. Shepherd, that we've been having with Prof. Shepherd, part 2. In studio with me now, though, senior biomedical research scientist in immunology, working in the biopharmaceutical industry in the USA. From you hear me say that, you know who me attack. You know, say I'm a scientist and him do all them things here. So he's with us in the studio. You know him by now, so we're not going through all of his thing, including in postdoctoral training and so on. Dr. Devon Taylor is with us in studio. We're very happy that he's here with us. Usually he's on the phone lines. It's the second time he's making in the studio. We're very happy to have him in place. Good morning, Devon. How are you doing?
Doing well, Kabu. Give thanks for the opportunity.
Very good to have you in the studio.
Yeah, man.
All the
good
time on the
here.
phone. And
greetings, Jamaica.
And with you, Devon, grab your microphone for me, please. Who's with you?
Marvin Dunn.
Marvin Dunn?
Yes.
You sure say your name Dunn?
Yes.
Then how you your name Dunn? Now, if anybody talk about Little Dunn's River, it's you.
True.
Because I think the whole thing was named after your people, the enslavers.
True.
Who ting and so on, and here you are.
True.
Am I right?
Right.
It's named after your people.
Yes.
The whole Dunn's River thing. Don't it?
Yeah, man. I mean, Dunn, the colonizers.
You don't know.
Name those spaces and now, is what? After 400 years and, we're fighting for liberation. Yeah. So Jamaicans can access all them beaches as them rivers. And it's a funny thing. Adesso we're there, and we have to stand up and defend it. So
yeah, Dr. Taylor, as you know, is the co-founder, principal, is the president of JABEM. And JABEM is the Jamaica Beach
Birthright Environmental Movement.
JABEM was formed in response to and because of the need to protect our spaces, including the beaches, green spaces, recreational spaces, focusing specifically on the beaches. But one of the things you have always said, Devon, is that land rights are beach rights. Beach rights are land rights. So it's all connected, isn't it?
Yes, it's all connected because in order to access the foreshore, in order to access the beaches, you need to cross over land. Mm-hmm. So it's a land rights issue, and that ties into a reparative issue, because we don't know after slavery, there was no real transformation. There was no internal reparation done in Jamaica. And all of the coastline, is controlled by private interests and the government of Jamaica. Mm-hmm. And laws were put in place that did not give Jamaicans fundamental rights of access to the foreshore. Mm-hmm. In fact, the law that was put in place, the Beach Control Act in 1956, further suppresses the rights of the Jamaican people by giving them no right of access, no right to swim, no right to bathe, no right to fish, no right to walk along the foreshore. That is codified in the Beach Control Act of 1956, right? A colonial era legislation that we're trying to remove. And I do not know why all these successive governments have not just repealed and replaced that legislation. We need to go into that because Jamaica need to understand that we are on the cusp right now of, being able to transform our society. As we talk about constitutional reform, as we talk about rights-based, environmental justice, as we talk about inequality and inequity, these are the legislation that we need to remove from the books and replace them with modern laws.
You're one of the few persons talking about constitutional reform, though. It has gone underground. Ain't nobody talking about no constitutional reform. I suppose it's happening, but ain't nobody talking about it.
Yeah, but we can't let that one slip because, fundamentally, the issue of governance has to raise its head in how we structure this society to be just and fair. Mm-hmm. And we cannot move forward without the right policy, the right regulation, the right framework in order to make the society more just, more equitable. And that is, fundamental to the reformation that is needed in post-colonial Jamaica. Otherwise, we're not going to move nowhere.
Let me play this clip for you and have you respond at the back of it.
Madam Speaker, I want to say a few words on beach access. Coming to that. I'm pleased to report that the beach access and management policy is complete and will be tabled at the next sitting of the House. policy seeks to ensure Jamaica's beaches are preserved and sustainably managed to present and sustainably managed for present and future generations. And the provision, Madam Speaker, is made for Jamaicans to be able to access their beaches. Madam Speaker, I'm happy to announce that the government will be upgrading a number of beaches across the island for public access. You know, Madam Speaker, I've listened very carefully to the debate around beach access. I had to do it because the policy falls under the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. And we have spent a lot of time going through the policy because the issues are fundamental. We are dealing with the rights of the people. We are dealing with people's prescriptive rights. We are dealing with property rights. We're dealing with people's right to enjoy their environment. And we have to go through all of them carefully. But one thing must be sure. We must be certain. And we must be unequivocal. Jamaicans are entitled to access their beaches. But one thing we know, Madam Speaker, there is one thing to speak about access. There is another thing, Madam Speaker, to actually enable access. So we believe everybody must have access, but we go a step further. Madam Speaker, I am happy to announce that the government will be upgrading a number of beaches across the island for public access. The existing Fantasy Beach Park in Priory St. Anne will be developed into a parish beach park, similar to the Harmony Park in Montego Bay. The government will be upgrading another 9 free community beaches this year. Beyond 2024-2025 budget year, we will develop the Boston Beach Park in Portland. And we will do a major beach park in Negril. So others talk about beach access. We actually give people beach that they can access. Yeah. They give you the words, we give you the beach. Now we have never sold a beach. Where is Cornwall Beach?
Yeah. A comedy show, obviously.
Yeah, it is.
And also a slap and a fly in the face of the people of Jamaica. We have never sold a beach. We just know that we have lost access. So it means that it's even worse than we thought. You're giving it away.
Yeah, and so let's start with the positive.
We start the positive. Then let me take a break. The only positive
there was no freedom of movement, all right? The document did not give you the right to swim, to walk along the foreshore, and to fish. In fact, the document also said they're going to reduce the number of fishing beaches in Jamaica. You know, so those things were fundamentally in that document. So that's why we want to see now if they remove qualified rights and change that to fundamental rights that is unfettered. That means any Jamaican can walk up on any beach and and mandate that Jamaicans, that they're going to create conservation easement, because in that document was also they were going to negotiate with hotel for a fee that Jamaicans could now pay a fee to the hotel to access their beaches. I mean, what madness is that?
Total madness. And, here's the thing. So we hear the speech from the Prime Minister, obviously preempting the opposition leader, because this is something that the opposition has put in their manifesto, jibing the opposition to say, you can talk about access, but we can give it because the Mediterranean Foreign Affairs Ministry, anyway, we can enable the access. But then at the same time, shortchanging and patronizing the people who are calling for this. This is not a political football. This is our human rights. This is about our dignity and our human rights. And this is something that the Prime Minister obviously does not get.
No.
It's totally... And that takes us to Little Duns River, because they hijacked Little Duns River from the people. It's called Little Duns River for a reason. And now, in some piecemeal way, saying that they're opening it how many days?
2 days per week.
Which day is it open?
Saturday and Sunday.
Is it connected to the sale of the other thing up the top there? We know if it's connected to... I don't want... Yes, my brother. What's your name?
Fabian, otherwise Kumina.
Kumina, yes, man, welcome, Fabian.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it advertised that is only Sunday it open, so most of the people know that is Sunday it open, but it don't advertise that is Saturday too. So the people Saturday need to know that it's open on Saturday and Sunday for now.
For now.
Yeah.
So what is this reason? Why do we know why it's not open for the other days? What are they telling you?
Well, I'm saying since security is there, they should open it right through, because we have business doing down there and we cannot do business and our thing is going to spoil.
Why they're not opening it? They tell you?
No, I don't know the reason why they're not opening.
Mr. Don, you also do business there, right?
The two of us do business there.
What have you heard, Mr. Don? Anything? Come closer to the mic. Yeah?
Well, I speak to somebody close...
You can push your mic down. Just push your mic down a little.
I speak to somebody close to the minister, and they told me that they was like keeping it for. They need to do some development, so they don't want to open it yet fully till the development finish.
What kind of development coming on?
They say they're going to put in some infrastructure like bathroom, and it need more. But we have bathroom down here already. Okay. Might be need to fix up more.
So you're all comfortable with what they're saying?
Well, we are not comfortable because you have elders down there more than 70 are going at 80 now a struggle.
70 years old, 80 years old.
Struggling and not earning no money. A man like Bongovin, we are in history of the founder, and you have Bongovin and Kumina, three of us, and Ned coming and...
And you yourself is all young Kumina?
I am 60 years old, and history is at 63. Bongovin is more than 70, and right now sometime down him drop down. Because he's not earning him, it stress him out. Because all him life, Bongovin is there. Him grow up. All him life is Little Duns River.
Who's the councillor for the area that Little Duns River falling on? Is it mayor?
Bell Davis.
Bell Davis. Mr. Bell Davis?
Yes.
Miss Michael Bell Davis, the last time you were here, that was before you won the election. Listen to what is happening here. We're going to need him to come back in the studio, because this is crazy. What is the latest on it, legally speaking, Devon?
Yeah, and you see, Kabo, this is when we look at the community and how the community is wounded by the lack of access, by how they exclude our people from these spaces. You see the impact on the real lives of Jamaicans. And I tell you, these politicians are not in touch with our lives, the lives of our communities. You always suffer from this exclusion. So them, they way up and for them stand up here and not feeling the pain of the people.
That's
and I'm asking the people to really look at this situation. We do not want any piecemeal approach to beach access. We need fundamental rights change to access the whole thing.
And you can't turn it into a political partisan football.
No.
What are you doing?
That is what they're doing right now. Yes, they're trying to upset opposition, put a pun forward to say this is what they're going to do, and they're playing politics with it, and they advertise this on a political stage. This was never a policy that was carefully developed and really, put out there. So we need that change. So we have them in the courts. Okay, we have gone now 3 times into the court. All right, the UDC is the defendant, which is a statutory body of the Jamaican government. Now we're showing you that the government is complicit.
We're taking ourselves to court.
We're taking ourselves to court. And, the case has not moved because we have not been able to get a firm position as to where UDC stand. Okay, so we went for 3 mentions, and the 4th one is coming up, I think, in the summer. All right, so we are in there engaging the government, all right, around, coming to the table, opening up the space for Jamaican people, and they're dragging their feet. I have to say one thing also, that you talk about the CERD earlier, all right? We took the Jamaican government to the CERD, and we asked the Jamaican government to repeal this, discriminatory law. And the Jamaican government basically said they can't do that because what? They have to balance economic interests and land rights with the people's rights.
Well, there are no economic interests involved because we just heard from the Prime Minister they don't sell beaches.
No,
so
that's not true. That's not true. I mean, there's tons of beaches and lands. They sell lands, and if you lose land, then you don't have access to the beaches because our legislation does not create conservation easement and leave these tracts so we access the beaches.
Well, we have to redefine beach or define beach properly because beach obviously include the land.
Absolutely.
Where the beach depend because the thing it's not hung up in space.
No.
It's anchored on the earth, which is the land. It's all right. So legal. So the thing is still in court. It's only coming up for mention. Nothing has happened yet apart from just mention. In the meantime, 2 days per week. Mr. Dunn coming out. In the meantime, people are suffering.
Yes.
Come closer to the mic for me.
Yes. For these 2 days where they put for the beach, we who do like business, our livelihood for our kids, go to school and things, it don't benefit us. It just benefit the people, like maybe you go to work and tired and on the weekend you want to come wash off. We were there over 4.5 decades, been working, developed up, that's even the government could see it. We ending up suffering now, cannot pay our bill for 18 months now, and nobody come to the table and give a speech.
And this is a cry of the people. This is a cry of the people across Jamaica as the government of Jamaica steals the beaches from the people and talking about them don't sell beach and laughing in the synagogue of Satan like it's a joke. When you laugh at us, we hear you. We feel that. We hear you. When I heard them snickering, and that's why I play that thing there. When I heard them snickering in the synagogue of Satan, I was so mad. Just on behalf of the people of Jamaica who I know are losing their livelihoods as a result of the fact that they're stealing the beaches. Go ahead, Kumino.
Yeah, I'm just saying that place was there and nobody never saw Little Dunn River. Nobody never saw it. It's to go down there and chop it out and let the people know that something can work there,
Exactly.
The government never know about it. It was a place that over the Mystic Mountain, they wash cars over there. So the dirty water go down that. So Little Dunn River couldn't exist in those time. And history is the one that go there and chop it down and bungo in and then come alongside them and see that it's a vision. And we do it together. And after we work so hard and set the place now, they come and want to take it away from us. And that is what we set for our old age pension, where we cannot work again. And the youth can come and them can come and inherit it.
These
reptilians
have set their eyes on it. But the bottom line of all of this is that they have a plan for Little Dunn River. I don't know what the plan is, and I'm not going to say I know what the plan is. I don't have a clue. But I watch what's happening around it, and I know they have a plan. That plan they're about to carry through, it seems to me, Devon. What rights do the people have to stop the plan there?
Yes, the people have prescriptive rights. Prescriptive rights basically state they've been using a beach, a river, for a minimum of 20 years without any permission. You can continue to do so in perpetuity. You just need the court to recognize that right. And that's what we're doing at Little Dunn River right now. The case is a prescriptive rights case. The case in Bob Marley Beach is a prescriptive rights case. It's consistent with the pattern. Spaces that our people establish, rustic spaces that we use for our people, them see it as a commercial interest, somebody, have interest in it, and then the government comes in now and try to displace the people and give it to the big guys. That is the cry of our people. The displacement, the dispossession, the marginalization, that is happening, by our government and our people. And what our people need to do, you have to rise up, people, for understand. Today, it's our rights. Tomorrow is your own. them not going to stop until them displace and take everything about Jamaica from us. Them not stop with beach and rivers, Them are come for the mountains, them too. Them are come for the valleys, them. Every places in Jamaica that are treasures of the land will be taken because there's a univision where these guys have, that tourism is the only way forward.
And mining.
These are extractive industries.
So the mountains are being mined. The valleys are where the farms are supposed to be are being stolen and being sold to the wealthiest in public-private partnerships. And the beaches are being stolen because they said they're not selling them, so I teeth them. I'm totally out of time. And Dr. Alfred Dawes is going to be online in a minute. Dr. Dawes, please hold for me. I know we're supposed to come to you 1 minute gone. But just please, let me just wrap up with you, Devon, to say there are some things out now. For example, I know I have a press release in my hand that says beach access rights for the Blue Lagoon and Bob Marley beaches continue in court. And I know there's also going to be a sit-in or a walk-in or a beach-in situation at Little Duns River?
Yes. So Tuesday, at 10 o'clock, we're having a sit-in at Little Duns River. We're asking, the public to come sit in with us.
Tuesday at 10, that's a Tuesday I come.
Yes.
So today is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 10 a.m.
Yes, come sit in with us as we continue to advocate for these ones to really regain their spaces.
Yeah, peacefully.
Peaceful sitting, I mean, with us all in a reasoning, right in the space. So, at the roadside, so just come in. Monday, we're in Port Antonio Parish Court advocating for the continued opening of the Blue Lagoon. So we're asking all the ones in Fair Hill, in around Boston Bay, all these places to come out and support Port Portland Environmental Action and JABEM as we go into the court to protect the prescriptive rights to the only public roadway that leads to the Blue Lagoon. So join us there. And Thursday, come to the Sutton Street Parish Court. We're going out there again to advocate for the continued, rights to keep Bob Marley Beach open. So we have a lot of activities going on here, and they're all focusing on the rights of Jamaicans to their beaches. I cannot emphasize enough to the Jamaican people that if we don't stand together in this one, we're going to lose more access to our beaches. We only currently have 3 miles of access of 494 miles. If that is not a wake-up call for us to lend our voice to the struggles, our ancestors, them never fight and shed blood for us to lose sovereignty to the coastline. We need to be able to go there, honor with dead, recreate. Anything we want to do, a commercial thing, anything. We need to have these spaces, and we do not want these spaces to be determined by a politician for feel so him can give it A, give it B, give it C. The whole thing belongs to us, we the people. So please show up.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Maker. And I know his flying monkeys are listening. Listen to me. You don't joke about this. Diane Abbott is the first black UK MP. Diane Abbott has Jamaican roots, and she's very close to her Jamaican roots. Very, very close. Now, the biggest Tory funder has come out and said, you see Diane Abbott on TV, you just want to hate all black women. I think she should be shot. The kind of uproar that we need to hear from black women around the world, we're not necessarily hearing it, especially here on the ground in Jamaica. Where are the black women who know the first black UK female MP, Diane Abbott, who understands the politics of what is being played out, and who also know that Frank Hester's friends have been saying, Lord Maynard, for example, has been saying, Frank Hester is not a racist because Frank Hester has investments in Jamaica. He does business in Jamaica. So I want to call on the PNP women's movement and the JLP women's movement and all the women's movement in the civil society women's movement and the gender, the Ministry of Gender, that is Babsy and our friend them, all of those groups. Don't tell me you're not hearing this. And don't tell me you don't know Frank Hester. Because Frank Hester is doing business in Jamaica. Diane Abbott is Britain's first black MP, central to the history of British politics and central to black history. She is a role model for all black people in the UK and then outside of the UK. Rishi Sunak, who is blacker than ink, don't consider himself black because he come from India. He knows that Frank Hester has not apologized. But For him, that's not a problem. And then we have Frank Hester's friend saying he's not racist because he does business in Jamaica. We want to go to talk to Dr. Alfred Dawes because he, interestingly, the only voice that I saw raised questions about this issue was Dr. Alfred Dawes. And that's very interesting. I mean, he's a man. Granted, obviously, somebody who has his fingers on the pulse of what's happening, who understand things from a different perspective. But he's the only person I've heard so far who's come out and say, listen, we have to ask some questions here. And he's posing the questions. I'm also posing the questions. Last week I asked you in this space, who is Frank Hester? What is his relationship with Jamaica? What relationship does this racist millionaire have with Jamaica? Is he an investor in Jamaica? Is he investing in private businesses, or has he been employed by the government of Jamaica? These are questions that are relevant. Has he been given contracts, granted contracts here on the island of Jamaica? And if so, by whom? Are these private contracts or government contracts? And are the taxpayers paying Frank Hester because he's employed or been granted a contract by the government of Jamaica? We need some answers, because Frank Hester's colleagues and himself have said he's not racist because he does business in Jamaica. But look what he has said about the Jamaican. All black women should feel affronted, should be angry. This is serious. This is racism out in the open. So will we, black women in Jamaica, question the Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, and any other minister about who Frank Hester is? I'm holding for Dr. Dawes, but all right, I do think I have Dr. Dawes now, just as I'm up on the break. But let me just say hello. Good morning, Dr. Alfred Dawes. How are you doing?
Hi, good morning. I'm good.
All right.
Good morning to all the listeners.
Thank you so much for agreeing to join us this morning. I do have to take a quick break, so let me do that. Can you hold? Leading general laparoscopic and weight loss surgeons. He is also co-founder of the Caribbean General Hospital, a state-of-the-art 20-bed multifunctional private hospital that offers cutting-edge diagnostics, advanced surgical procedures, and 24-hour A&E. He is very well placed to talk about some of the issues that are arising from the Frank Hester racist comments against our own Diane Abbott. So, Dr. Dawes, I was pleasantly shocked when I saw your post on what was happening in the United Kingdom, because little coverage on this side of town about what was happening with Diane Abbott. Why was it necessary for you to put that out there in the social spaces and to raise the questions?
Well, what is really disturbing is that one of the peers, Lord Marland, has said that Frank Hester can't be racist because he does lots of business in Jamaica. Mm-hmm. So the business that he's doing in Jamaica is used to defend him because we are accepting him. So therefore he can't be racist. Mm-hmm.
Black women, in other words, black women in Jamaica, because looking at Diane Abbott makes him want to hate all black women. So black women in Jamaica have no problem with him.
We have no problem with him. So therefore, nobody else should have any problem with him. So they're using Jamaica to defend this racist. And we are allowing it by staying silent, because in so doing, we are consenting to that use of our country in his defense.
You have done the research. Who is Frank Hester?
Frank Hester is a UK millionaire. He's a supporter of the Tory party, the ruling party, and he has this company, the Phoenix Partnership, that they do a lot of business in the National Health Service in the UK. They manage the patient's electronic records, and they're basically the custodians of all of the patient's records in the UK. We are now bringing him into Jamaica to manage our patients' records from the Ministry of Health.
All black women's records from the Ministry of Health being managed by Frank Hester's company.
By Frank Hester. So we have just signed a $5 million contract with his firm, and that is what is being used to defend him, that he's doing business in Jamaica.
When you say we have signed that, who signed that?
The Ministry of Health.
So the Ministry of Health has this $5 million contract with Frank Hester. That does what?
That is for the digitization of health records, and they've started at MA'AT Hospital just this year.
That was widely publicized, actually. That
was trumpeted in front of our faces as a good thing, and whereas advancement in digitization of health records is a good thing, we have a moral issue with doing business with Hester. In light of the recent revelations.
Yes. Was this up for tender? How did he get this contract? Do you know?
Well, it was up for tender, but there are some issues with that tender process because what was put out there put a lot of other companies at a severe disadvantage, especially companies that were doing business in Jamaica already. And then there were some variations in the size of the contract because this is something that I'll speak more about later on. But initially that invitation to tender was $2.4 million, and yet what was signed was $5 million without any explanation as to why there was such a massive variation in the size of the contract. So there are a lot of issues surrounding the tender itself, which should raise eyebrows.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. And that didn't raise any eyebrows either. And even outside of Frank Hester, that should have raised questions.
And this is something that will be brought into the mainstream shortly because, this coming from the background of the Cornwall Regional Hospital overrun from $2 billion initially to $20 billion now. There are some questionable practices that ought to be raised. And in this instance, you're talking about 100% variation, more than 100% variation in the initial request for proposal for a $2.4 million contract.
The Minister of Health, Christopher Tufton, was and maybe in a way rightly so, because if you're talking about digitization, this is a good thing. But so he was really positive about the way forward with this company, Frank Hester's company. Turns out Frank Hester is one of the biggest racists, if not the biggest racist, a multimillionaire racist. And so you have that issue. But he hasn't come out to say anything, even after this whole debacle. You would have thought that the Minister of Health or the Chief Medical Officer or somebody or some female high up would have said something by now, wouldn't you?
I think it's a wait and see if it will be a 9-day wonder. So, you having me on the program this morning and speaking about it is not really playing into their hands. But I suspect that it's just to wait it out, ride out the storm, and then people will forget about it. That's the approach.
Do we know where the money is coming from to fund this contract? Part
of it is the IDB, and part of it is our tax dollars. But ultimately, you know that whatever loans are there, we will have to repay.
So this is taxpayers' money, one way or the other, What questions are this raising for you, Dr. Dawes?
Well, one, how serious are we as a country? In light of our history of activism, we were one of the first countries, I think it was also in India, that imposed sanctions on South Africa and supported Cuba in their mission to fight the apartheid government in Angola. Bob Marley has inspired revolutions across the world. He was the main act at the Zimbabwean independence celebrations. We are a country of revolution. We were the ones that brought down slavery, no matter what they say in the history books. We were the ones after the Sunshine Rebellion that really reignited that flagging abolitionist movement and brought about the end of slavery. yet we have lost this will to fight. You know, the ancestors would not recognize this Jamaica because just everybody's sitting quietly and there are discussions about how much is it going to cost if we break the contract rather than standing on moral and principled ground. And that is what is most concerning to me more than anything else.
One would think that there must be an out in a contract like this because the UK Medical Doctors Association, I'm not quite sure if that is the exact term, and I think I can find this story.
Yeah, they are asking for termination of the contracts with the NHS. That is how far it has gone. The Prime Minister of England has come out and said that, yes, he is racist, and Downing Street really has accepted it. Initially, they had made a stance about it being a rude statement, and there are calls for the return of the £10 million donation.
15 million this morning? 50, we understand there's another £5 million.
There's another £5 million coming, yeah.
Yes. So that and the Medical Association in the UK, they have called for all the contracts to be broken, for want of a better term then. In other words, stop all contracts with him.
And yet here we are. Our silence is deafening.
What would you like to see and happen in this case?
There needs to be greater activism by the Jamaican people. Demand to know what is happening, why it is that we continue to do business with this man in the light of them holding it up that he does business in Jamaica, therefore he cannot be racist, and using Jamaica as a defense for his racism. We need to get louder and we need to demand that the Ministry of Health cancel this contract. It's just not acceptable.
Are there any companies in Jamaica that could do that contract?
Lots. We have electronic health records in several private hospitals. The University Hospital has electronic health records. There are companies that in the U.S. that have implemented electronic health records in the Bahamas. There are electronic health records being integrated put in place in Grenada right now as we speak. So there are enough companies on this side of the world to install and manage locally without having someone from across the Atlantic take over the responsibility.
And from the UK Tory government in particular. And so Minister Tufton has a whole lot to answer to, because this is on the back of the Commonwealth Secretary General debacle and Rwanda mess, What is Jamaica's love affair, the government's love affair with the Tory party in the UK and the operatives within the Tory party? This is something that needs some level of transparency, I would think. The process of the tender needs investigation, doesn't it?
I believe it does, and that is something that I'm going to be calling for. Because if you have companies that are bidding for a $2.4 million US contract, it means that whatever that RFP had could be done for half of the cost that was signed. What is it that was eventually signed in that $5 million contract?
What
were the add-on? That is a serious variation. As a matter of fact, that probably warrants a proper probe.
Maybe the Auditor General needs to get involved at this level. And then on the other hand, what do you think is responsible for the silence of black women in Jamaica who are being used as proxies for Frank Hester's racism?
I don't know where our level of apathy has come from across the island between the sexes. I don't know. This is something for sociologists and anthropologists to really look at, because during the rebellions, it was always women outside of Nanny who led the most successful guerrilla warfare in this side of the Atlantic, comparable only to one that was led by a female warrior in Brazil, in Palmeiras, I believe. But women used to be integral parts of the rebellions and the active resistance that helped to bring about the end of slavery, the rebellion again that brought about a lot of the civil rights that became available to the peasants.
Letitia Gohegan was the first one, was the one to throw the first stone. That's a woman, Letitia Gohegan. At the moment.
And it was a woman who they said who lit the fires at Kensington Estate.
Exactly. And so it is within our veins and our blood. We're children.
It's in our DNA.
Of Queen Nanny, of course. So the silence is deafening. The silence is troubling. I'm going to call upon Angela Brown-Burke and Babsy Grange and all of the other women who sit in, well, it's a synagogue of Satan, to raise your voices against this injustice, this oppression, this farcical foolishness that we see happening in coming out of the UK against Diane Abbott, but by extrapolation against all of us. This man has claimed that he's not racist because he's doing business in Jamaica. But he has said, I look at Diane Abbott and it makes me want to hate all black women. She should be shot. But on the other hand, Dr. Dawes, I know you're not a lawyer, but there's also a criminal statement in all of that. She should be shot. Is a criminal statement,
It is a police investigation currently. It has been reported to the police, and the police are investigating it, not just because of the threat against her in light of politicians being assassinated in recent times, but it is a criminal offence in the UK to make racially charged statements, and that by any definition is a racially charged statement.
I didn't realize that there was a criminal investigation. So here's the thing. Diane Abbott herself has Jamaican roots. She's a Jamaican woman at the end of the day.
From Clarendon.
And
she keeps her roots.
She's
close. She has been to Jamaica several times. She keeps her roots. Her parents are part of the Windrush generation, and we know how that has been panning out in recent times in terms of the denial of their rights. That was a scandal in recent times.
So moving from here, I heard you say that there are some others out of this that you will be looking at other issues. So what are some of these issues arising from this that you'll be looking at, and how do you proceed to go on? How do you plan to go on?
Well, the contract, the award of the contract, of course, there are some deviations from the norms that one would have expected. And there ought to be some answers with respect to that. I think we would want to know, firstly, why such a massive variation between the request for proposals and what was eventually signed. Mm-hmm. And is this the norm for contracts from the Ministry of Health, mm-hmm. in light of the ministry being fingered as one of the 3 departments of the government that has not been able to declare how $1.3 trillion, about 40% of our budget, has been spent, and the Cornwall Regional Hospital overruns $400 million of COVID money unaccounted for. Mm-hmm. So there are questions that need to be asked.
Many questions. The answers are in the questions. And we hope to talk to you again once you have fleshed out all of this. Thank you so much for the research. Thank you for putting it on the social media. And how can we follow you on social media so our listeners know how to?
I am Dr. Al Dawes on Instagram and on TikTok.
Right. And by the way, Dr. Dawes, the weight loss thing, to miss weight loss by your stuff here, so I soon come.
Anytime you're ready.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dawes.
All right, take care.
This is serious business, though. We laugh at the end here, but this is very serious business, and I'll definitely be keeping in touch with you on your own research, what you have unearthed once you've done that. Thanks. So that this happened, not because I was watching the news, but because I was going through what was trending in different countries. I had just come from China, watching what was trending in China. Then I'd gone to Russia, and I went to the United States and then the UK. And I saw Jamaica trending, and I thought, wow, why is Jamaica trending? And I clicked on that and recognized that Jamaica was trending in the UK because there was a racist comment made against our sister Diane Abbott. And the excuse for that comment was that this person could not be racist because he's doing business in Jamaica and Malaysia. Malaysia wasn't trending. Jamaica was trending because Jamaica is that powerful. Jamaica represents something on the world stage. The Minister of Gender Affairs in Jamaica knows what Jamaica represents on the world stage. The Minister of Gender has a responsibility to make a statement, to say something about what has been said about our Jamaican sister, the first black female member of parliament, I think out of Hackney, member of parliament in the United Kingdom, who has faced racism left, right and center, who has even been suspended from the House for all kinds of spurious reasons, and has faced oppression every single day of her life in that racist cesspit. Because racism in England is something that you feel. You don't have to really experience it face to face. You feel it when you go on the double-decker. You feel it when you're walking into a supermarket, a shop, a store. You feel it when you're walking down the street. You feel it as if you can cut it with a knife. That is how racist England is. I am talking from my own personal black girl experience. I studied in England. When I went there, I was told I did not need to pay my school fee for the 3 years that the MA was going to take because black students usually drop out. This was said to me by a white woman. Britain is one of the most racist countries on the face of the earth. Understand that. Racism in Britain don't have to hit you in the face because it comes in the atmosphere. This is how serious it is. And so this woman has been fighting racism all her life and classism, because if a country that has a royal family, you understand immediately that it thrives off classism, because the royal family has to be in a class above. And then to have this racist man, the largest Tory donor, by the way, £15 million already in Richard Sunak's coffers, that he has said, you see Diane Abbott on TV, you just want to hate all black women. That, I think, she should be shot. I don't have to tell you how serious that is. I don't have to tell you. I don't have to say that to the Minister of Gender. And above all, Diane Abbott is a Jamaican woman who we celebrate here on the island, Black History Month and other kind of month. We celebrate her as the first female black MP in the United Kingdom. Diane Abbott is celebrated here in Jamaica, also in Parliament and the political halls. She is celebrated. This is what she's facing in the UK. The UK Medical Association has asked for all contracts with Frank Hester to be cancelled. The Jamaican government has entered into a $5 million contract with Frank Hester and is using that to say that he's not racist because Jamaica don't mind the racism. Basically, that is what it is. And black women especially are not angry by this or affronted by this or angered by this. Tufton, you have a responsibility. Richard Sunak had to face that responsibility as a Prime Minister. He was trying to fight it first, but now he has to face it. He was genuflecting to Frank Hester. He was making all kinds of comments, left, right, and center about, he has apologized. He's forced now to come out to say this is a racist statement. And as you heard from Dr. Dawes, this is now being investigated by the UK Metropolitan Police. This is serious. Here we are as black women on the island. You think it don't matter? You think it don't matter? These are our medical records. We understand medicine and racism. We understand medicine. And we know we pronounce it wrong. And racism. We understand medicine and racism. Black women especially understand it. and here the most racist man in the world here right now, one of the most racist man, have access digitally to black women's medical records. Oh. Minister Tufton, don't make the day pass. You have to address this immediately. Minister Babsy Grange, you have to address this. Where are the women in Parliament? Where are the women in civil society? Where are the women of Jamaica? Where are you? We have one of the most racist person on the face of the earth who called for the killing of a black woman. She should be shot only because she's black. In charge of our medical records. Minister Tufton, cancel that contract. Black women, ban on our belly and make we deal with this. Ban on our belly and make we deal with this, because we cannot allow. We cannot allow for this to go on, and I really do hope. Journalism failed. Let me tell you how journalism failed. And this is one of the things that I talk about a lot in this space, that our journalists are no longer being trained to be investigative journalists. If you are going to write a story about a contract, a $5 million US contract that has been given to a foreign a company to keep Jamaica's medical records, what is the role of journalism? You first must find out. The story is not that the $5 million contract has been signed. The story is who get the contract. The investigation must be on who is this person. What was the process of the tender? Why no Jamaican get it, or a Caribbean person? Why you give it to a white man? Who is this white man? Who is he connected to? And it would take you to the Tory party, and you could go right down that road and find out who Frank Hester is. This is a role of journalism. This is a role of journalism. We have to stop taking stories from the politicians and just putting them in our newscasts, in the papers and so on. Our role as journalists is to question the power structures. Every time we see a story, who it come from? Why me get it? Who involved? Who are them people there? Let me find out who them be. Listening. Who have direct contact to Minister Tufton and to Babsy Grange. And especially for the Flying Monkeys who are listening and who always listen to this program. Now you know. Please take the message. I know you're going to take like a whole lot of messages from this program this morning, but please take that one into the context of what it is that you're doing or you're about to do. So I was very clear. Big, you can talk into the microphone over there, sir, because I need to say something to you, please. I know you just walked in, but hey, thank you for walking in. It's not like you're not going to be on air in 5 minutes. It's not like it's not work you come.
Well, I'm setting up.
Well, there you go. Well, thank you for setting up things for me so that I could do so nicely this morning with the music-wise. You responded, Bigay, to the text nicely, and you sent me about 4 different versions of this song, and all of them regularized. So thank you so much for that.
You are welcome.
Yeah, I told you last time my favorite was the Heptones. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the Thomas one too. And me listen to. I know you didn't agree with me when I was telling you that I didn't too much like the Tesson one, but me listen to it again. And I liked it.
It has grown on you.
It has grown on me. It has grown on me. So thank you so much. Is Mohammed Anaiza Bigay, is that your phone? Well, so, but Bigay, this is crazy though, because there's so many of these classics that have reggae versions, and I know there's something in the early days of Irie that we used to play the versions, you know.
And you know, it is funny that you should say this, because there's a big conversation about people stealing our music or taking reggae away from us. Mm-hmm. But the truth is that reggae music has taken so much from other genres to make reggae that it is. Yeah. So it is a symbiotic relationship.
Yes, and it works.
We have borrowed such a huge chunk of popular music, of R&B songs, which has formed a serious part of our culture too. So it is what it is. The Beatles, as you just mentioned, and many other songs. In fact, there was a period of time when Jamaicans didn't know that the songs were actually covers. They were pretty much owned per se by the Jamaican artist.
I suppose many Jamaicans probably still don't know that some of the songs that we sing reggae-wise not are covers.
No, of course, of course.
Do they have any of those coming out of the Bob Marley and the Wailers? Those I remember from the album Soul.
One Love is a reworking of a Curtis Mayfield song.
So there are some real popular songs that are actually sitting on the dock of the bay that just got to my head with Dee Brown. I used to play that with my son every day.
Dennis Brown's Little Green Apples, which everybody
God,
owned.
Make the Little Green Apples.
I mean, believe it's a Dennis Brown song.
Yes.
You know, so many others.
I was saying to you last night that, you know, some people, it seems to me, are also born. You can listen to a song and say, boy, I want to hear this in a reggae, but it's this voice I want to hear. So, I call the song Mother Mary, right? And I am not apologizing for that. So, you know, you put me right and say it's Let It Be. No wonder you couldn't find it.
No, I tell you something. There are other persons who refer to the song as Mother Mary.
Well, I'm not alone. There you go.
You're not alone.
So, you know, me couldn't find a song, and but yeah. Anyway, so Big Abe correct me, said not Mother Mary, it's Let It Be. But in any case, I heard Richie Stephens, and when I wrote to you, I said, I'm sure Richie Stephens covered this, but you're saying he didn't cover it.
No.
So this is one of the, what I call it, Mandela effect. Because I'm sure Richie covered this. And that me played already.
And that you played already?
Yeah.
No. I could double check for you, but I am more than 90% sure.
Call him.
Eh?
Richie. Well, I can't get him right now.
Eh?
No, I can't get him right now.
Should we?
Yes, we need to ask him publicly if him cover it. Because, but you said Lukie D covered it.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we never played a Lukie D version this morning.
No, it's kind of hard to find. I don't know if it was a released copy, but I know that he has done it in dubplate form for many sound systems. And
it's a very nice song, you know.
And Lust performs it as part of their set most times.
Okay, I really love the song, and really about it's. I think some people think it's like a gospel song, and it's about Mary, Mother of Jesus, but it's really Mary. It's really the mother of the artist who wrote the song. Right. The song is about, you know, it's one of the Beatles that write it, being in trouble and feeling troubled, and his mother coming to him and telling him, "Don't take it, put it on your head, just let it be." Just let it be. Basically, that's what it is, you know.
And you know, it is funny that you should say that, because Hey Jude was also written by a member of the Beatles. Paul McCartney, I think.
And I think
I
think
and this was a song of comfort when he was going through a divorce with his son. He was saying to his son, you know, take a sad song and let it, you know.
Yeah. I want to have a discussion with you on some of those songs with a big A. We really need to find some of those.
That is what it was. It was a song of comfort.
Yeah.
And a lot of persons, you know, were probably relating Jude to the Bible as well.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But that is what it was.
So, because they really do have
I play it a lot on Father's Day because it is a relationship between a son and a father.
Some of these songs that are telling the stories are really nice. I love John Lennon, and this is why, you know, I kind of love what he says, what he does, when right about. Imagine, for example, is like crazy on my list of favorite songs. But I like to listen back to some of these older songs and just kind of just relax with them.
Yeah, of course.
Them touch you at some places, because Let It Be, you know, especially that first.
There are some songs, you know, and a significant chunk of them too, that sound better in reggae.
True, and I will go with Mother Mary. You know, Mother Mary sound better than reggae.
No, there are just some songs that when they are reggaeized, they sound much better.
Yes, and we're going to rename them along the way. But you never get Richie. Anyway, so Richie, morning to you, sir. Somebody will tell us that we're going to try to get you on the phone. And I know, Biggie, that you can get Richie too. You need to produce it, by the way.
Really?
Yes.
I will speak to him accordingly. I know I'm not going to touch it. And I know why he
won't. Why I'm not going to touch it? Royalties?
Because his good friend, Lucky D, has done it. And I know I'm not going to go nowhere near this song. Right?
Even though we ask him publicly on the air like this?
Even though we ask him, I know his integrity is one of such. And me personally, I would not produce it either.
You don't produce it either?
No, I wouldn't produce it either.
Well, hello.
No, seriously. Because of that very same reason.
Well, I understand the ethics of it all.
Lucky D is also a very good friend of mine. And I would never want to go into that territory.
Well, just for me then, just for my program. Just for my program.
Yeah, man, of course.
Well, then, thank you. There you go. This is how we're saying goodbye for let it be.
Let it be.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Bigay. This is how we're saying goodbye. We're making way for the Bigay. Thank you for listening. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you to everyone who participated this morning and listened into the program. Until next week, remember now tomorrow is a lunar eclipse. Just pay attention to that. Remember that Mercury is in retrograde right now in Aries. The lunar eclipse is going to be in Libra. And then we have a solar eclipse on the 8th of April. And that's a whole other situation. So energy, frequency, and vibration. See you next week, inshallah.